Journalist. Since President Trump came back into office, can you just give us the numbers? How many of them have criminal records versus those who are in the country illegally? Karoline Leavitt. All of them, because they have illegally violated the laws of our country and therefore, in the eyes of this administration, are already criminals. I know the previous administration didn't see it that way, and it's a major shift in the culture of our country to view someone who has violated immigration laws as a criminal. But that's the way we look at it. Journalist Peter. During the 2024 campaign, President Trump said this about immigration. They're going to go home where they belong, and we're going to start with the criminals, and there are a lot of them. According to NBC News, ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented people on Sunday. Nearly half of them, 566, have no criminal record other than entering the country illegally. But illegal entry is considered an administrative violation, not a felony. So the president is no longer prioritizing violent criminals? Karoline Leavitt. President Trump has repeatedly said at rallies, and you, Peter, covered them yourself, that he is planning the largest deportation operation against illegal criminals in U.S. history. If you are an alien who illegally enters the United States, you are by definition a criminal and subject to deportation. Journalist Peter, interrupting. Sorry, just to clarify, does this mean that violent criminals are no longer the first priority for deportation? Karoline Leavitt. The president also said that two things can be true at the same time. He wants to deport illegal immigrants in general, and of course, he wants to target drug dealers, murderers, rapists, people who have committed serious crimes and who terrorize law-abiding citizens in our country. They are certainly ICE's primary targets. But that doesn't mean that other illegal immigrants who violate our laws will get away with it. Journalist Peter. Got it. So the next question is about the current confusion about the freeze, or pause. President Trump promised during the campaign to lower prices. Make everything cheaper, from food to everything else. But it seems that some actions, like the suspension of funding for programs, could actually increase costs for ordinary Americans. Let me give you an example: the Low-Income Heating Assistance Program, LIHEAP. Will this pause affect it, and will it lead to higher prices? Karoline Leavitt. What specific actions are you referring to? Journalist Peter. For example, the LIHEAP program. We don't see any clear explanation as to whether the freeze applies to that. What about Medicaid? And so on. People just don't know what to expect. Karoline Leavitt. You are asking hypothetical questions about programs you cannot name specifically. I can tell you this: Social Security, Medicare, WIC, and food stamps are not affected by this federal pause. I will provide you with a full list after the briefing if needed. The Office of Management and Budget is preparing it. As for lowering the cost of living, this is very important. President Trump already made some historic moves last week by signing a memorandum of emergency measures to lower prices for American families. He also rolled back many of the burdensome regulations put in place by the previous administration, which cost American households an estimated $55,000 in additional costs over 4 years. Those regulations are now gone. He also signed an executive order declaring a national energy emergency in the United States to return the country to energy dominance. Energy is a key driver of inflation, and the president wants to ramp up production to lower prices. The coming Trump energy miracle will provide a favorable deal for America. Journalist Jackie. People still seem confused about this federal spending freeze. You say that funding that goes directly to citizens is not going to stop, but there are organizations that receive money and then help people. Like Meals on Wheels, they serve over 2.2 million seniors. Many of those voters voted for the president, and they are worried that they might suffer. 2. Karoline Leavitt. I have explained at least 4 times that nothing will change for those who receive direct aid from the federal government. OMB has sent a Q&A memo to Capitol Hill to clarify all the nuances. Direct aid will remain as before. I understand you have many more questions, but OMB is currently reviewing the full scope of government spending, which is why people elected Donald Trump. Journalist Jackie. If funding doesn't go directly to the person but through the organization, wouldn't they have to close the programs? Karoline Leavitt. Let me repeat. Direct aid that is already in people's hands will not be cancelled. As I said, we are in the process of compiling a full list that will be published as soon as it is ready. Our goal is to understand what exactly the money is spent on and to reduce ineffective spending. This is what the President promised to do, and this is what he is doing now. Journalist. Back to immigration. ICE has made 3,500 arrests since President Trump took office. How many of them have actual criminal histories, and how many are just being held for illegal status? Karoline Leavitt, repeating her position. All of them, because the very act of entering the United States illegally is a crime in the eyes of this administration. I know it wasn't thought of that way before, but there's a fundamental cultural shift now. If a person violates our immigration laws, they're considered a criminal. Journalist. So, in your opinion, they all have a criminal record because… Karoline Leavitt. Yes, if they violated the border laws, then they are criminals. Journalist. I have a question about stripping security from people like John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Brian Hook. Senator Tom Cotton says he has seen intelligence that there is a real threat from Iran to those who were involved in killing Soleimani. He worries that if something happens to these people in public, it could affect not only them but their families. Is the President willing to reconsider? Karoline Leavitt. The President already responded to this yesterday and took a firm position. He does not believe that taxpayers should pay for the lifelong personal security of people who have held public office. There is nothing to stop them from hiring private security at their own expense. Journalist. Will this impact the recruitment of top talent for similar positions in the future? Karoline Leavitt. No. According to the Presidential Personnel Office, we receive such a flood of resumes that there are simply piles of them. There are no problems with talent. Journalist. Regarding the spending freeze, who exactly advised the President on the legality of this measure, telling government agencies that they could not spend money already appropriated by Congress? Karoline Leavitt. As the OMB memo says, this is entirely within the law. The White House counsel's office believes that the President has the authority to do this, and that's why he's doing it. Journalist. So you disagree with legislators who say the President is overstepping his authority by freezing these funds? Karoline Leavitt. I recommend looking at the exact wording in the memorandum. It clearly states that this is within the law. Journalist. On Friday night, the administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day notice required by law. It appears to have replaced almost everyone at DOJ and DHS, leaving just 2. And yesterday, about 12 prosecutors investigating the President were fired. As you know, these are career employees with civil service protections. Is the administration selective in deciding which laws to follow and which not? Karoline Leavitt. According to the White House and its legal team, the President is acting within his executive powers. He is the head of the executive branch of government, and can therefore fire anyone he deems necessary. There is a 2020 court case, Sila Law LLC vs. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that I recommend reading. It confirms the legality of the President's actions. Journalist. So you're confident that if these prosecutors file a lawsuit, you'll win in court? Karoline Leavitt. Yes. We expect to win. Journalist. The President himself personally gave the order to fire them, given that they were working on cases related to secret documents and election interference? Karoline Leavitt. The memo to that effect came from the Office of Presidential Personnel Management. The President runs the White House, so, yes, it's his decision. Journalist. President Trump has cut off funding for UNRWA and redesignated the Houthis as a terrorist organization, a move the previous administration had reversed. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous president such bad advice? Karoline Leavitt. Interesting idea, but I am not aware of any investigation. It would be logical to discuss, however, since the Houthis are indeed terrorists. They have attacked U.S. warships and other things. The Trump administration did the right thing by redesignating the Houthis as a terrorist group. The previous administration, in my opinion, was unwise in reversing that. I have not heard anything about an investigation yet, although it is a good idea.